Right, I'm going to add this onto the flipped class section so you can download it after the lesson. So the structure for task 2 is slightly different to task 1. We also have 4 paragraphs. Remember, you don't have to stick to this. This can change a little bit. You could have 5 paragraphs. I wouldn't put less than 4 for task 2 though. So the first paragraph is always your introduction paragraph. Then you have your body 1 and body 2. And for task 2, we need to include a conclusion paragraph. For task 2, there are 4 different types of essays that you're going to be doing. And each one of them, you're including different things to each of these paragraphs. So the first one is an agree or disagree. This is an opinion essay. So you need to say whether you agree or disagree with the statement. Number 2 is an advantages and disadvantages essay. So this is different. You're not saying whether you agree or disagree with something. You're saying what are the advantages and the disadvantages of the things mentioned in the statement. Then you have a discussion essay. So what do we need to include when we ask to discuss something? I just underlined it for you. So if we ask to discuss, what do we need to include? Right, your opinion, sure, but what did I just say? When we're asked to discuss something, we have to look at the different sides. So not just what you think and your opinion, but perhaps what other people's opinions are as well. There's always 2 sides to a story. So for us to discuss, we have a look at the different sides. And the last one is a problem and solution essay. So you'll get given a problem, you need to talk about the problem, and then you need to talk about the solution as well. So here I have a few different statements and questions that you would get in a task 2. Let's have a look at the first one. Children have to be educated, but they also have to learn things for themselves. To what extent do you agree or disagree with this view? Which type of essay is this? I don't want you to type the number in the chat box. 1, 2, 3, or 4. What kind of essay is this? All right, easy, it's number 1, right? So the question will tell you what kind of essay it is. So before you start writing, I want you to think about that. Have a look at the question and think about what kind of essay am I writing here? Is it agree, disagree essay? Is it a problem solution essay? And that'll help you to structure your essay in the correct way. All right, so it's an agree, disagree essay. And our structure is here, introduction, body 1, body 2, conclusion. So what type of information do we need to include in an introduction? What's the first thing that we should do? So this is the same as task 1. What's the first thing that we should do for our introduction? It has to do with this over here. What's the first thing that I should do? First, we write our plan, but what are we putting in the introduction? Yeah, it has something to do with this over here. We paraphrase the question. Okay, because the question is the topic of your essay. So paraphrase the question. So the same as task 1. What else can we include in our introduction for an essay like this? So we paraphrase the question. What else can we add to our introduction? Think about what it's asking you. Give your opinion, great. Okay, it's an opinion essay. So you should start off by paraphrasing the question and giving your opinion. Okay, you could say something like, I completely agree with this statement for reasons that I will now discuss. Reasons that I'll now discuss in the following essay. All right, you don't have to write this, but that's an example of how to give your opinion. So now in body 1 and body 2, you need to state your reasons for your opinion. You've given your opinion, and now you need to state your reasons. You should have at least 2 different reasons for your opinion. So you've said that you agree. All right, so now you can talk about the first reason that you agree and the second reason that you agree. Okay, you should have at least 2 reasons why you agree. So the first one, you state your reason, you explain it in a little bit more detail. So remember, you need to give reasons and then give an example, either from personal experience or from your own knowledge. Then you state your second reason, explain, give an example. Okay, so a reason that children have to be educated, okay, but also learn things for themselves. So you're giving a reason why you think they need to learn things for themselves. Remember, you can also disagree with the statement. You don't have to agree, or you could remain neutral. So this means you don't agree or disagree, you're in the middle. So you could explain why you're neutral as well. But each paragraph should have a reason for your opinion and then an explanation and an example. All right, what should we include in our conclusion paragraph? So let me know in the chat box, what should we include in our conclusion? Take a guess if you're not sure. Okay, great. The first thing we should do is summarize body A and body B. And this is so important. And it's a step that a lot of you either don't do well or forget to do. A conclusion is basically a summary of what you've just written. Body 1 and 2, or A and B, have a main topic. So what you should be doing first is summarizing the main topics of these 2 paragraphs. Okay, so summarize the main points. For example, you could say something like, in conclusions for reason 1, okay, this is your first reason, and reason 2, okay, you don't say this, but you say what the reasons were. I believe that the main statements, I believe that children have to learn things for themselves, is completely right, is completely true. Okay, so there's 2 things that we do. We summarize our main points from these 2 paragraphs, and then we just sum up our conclusion as well. Conclusion here is that we agree with the statements. And this is an example sentence that we can use. Okay, so conclusions for all of these types of essays is the same thing. We summarize our main points from these 2 body paragraphs. All right, let's have a look at another structure. So now we have an advantages, disadvantages essay. So let's have a look at the question. Some cities reduce inner city traffic by increasing public transport. Others impose tax on those who drive. So we have 2 statements. Now it says, what are the advantages and disadvantages of each system? So sometimes you have 2 statements and you need to speak about the disadvantages and advantages of both. So the introduction is the same. We paraphrase the question, say what we're going to be writing about. Should we add an opinion into the introduction here? Should we add an opinion in? What do you think? If you're not sure, have a look at the question again. And does this question ask for our opinion? No. Okay, so we don't need to add an opinion here. It's not actually asking for it. So we can just paraphrase the question and then we can say what we're going to write about. So a brief mention of the main points that we're going to say. What do you think we should include in body 1? What should we add into body 1? How would you divide up this advantages and disadvantages essay? In body 1, we mentioned the advantages. If there's 2 statements, then we need to talk about the advantages of both. Okay, so if there's 2, you would talk about the advantages of number 1 and then the advantages of number 2. Right, sometimes there's only 1 statement. For this type of essay, it says each system. Okay, often you'll only get 1 statement. So in this case, you need to talk about the advantages of system number 1 and the advantages of system number 2. So not always, but this kind of essay, you would have to add the advantages of both. So you have the advantages, then you give a reason and an example. Always a reason and an example. What should we talk about in body 2? Anyone else? What should we put in body 2? All right, we should put the disadvantages. Give an explanation and an example. Okay, so this is really important. For a lot of people make the mistake of deciding that the statement only has advantages and then they don't discuss any disadvantages. So it doesn't matter if our opinion here is that there are only advantages to the first statement, we still need to discuss some disadvantages because this is what it asks us. Right, so we can do this, if there's 2 things, we can do it in 2 separate ways. In body 1, we could discuss the advantages and disadvantages of both. And then in body 2, we could discuss the advantages and disadvantages of both. Or we could put the advantages of both in number 1 and the disadvantages of both in number 2. Right, so there's 2 ways to do this one. It's up to you. All right, it says, what are the advantages and disadvantages of each system? Okay, so you can, as I said, describe advantages and disadvantages of number 1 in body 1 and the advantages and disadvantages of number 2 in body 2. Okay, so that's the other way to do it. What I want to show you here is that you need to speak about both the advantages and disadvantages. All right, so please don't forget to speak about the disadvantages, even if you think there aren't any. Often you only get 1 statement, which is why I've put it like this. All right, and then the conclusion. Again, we give a summary of the main ideas. And here you can give a brief opinion. Okay, so here you could say which one you think is better, for example, or you could express what you agree with or that it has more advantages than disadvantages. Okay, so an opinion for this type of essay could be right, so this is an opinion here. The advantages outweigh the disadvantages. So that's a phrase that we could use. Right, let's look at the next type of essay, right? So this, what kind of essay do you think this is? See if you can remember. The world would be a happier place if we all enjoyed our work. How realistic do you think this is? So quickly have a look. What type of essay do you think this is? If we ask, how realistic do you think this is? Right, this is a discussion essay. They give you a statement and then they ask you to discuss it. So you may not have the word discuss in the question, but they're saying, how realistic do you think this is? So this means that they're asking you to discuss different sides. Okay, maybe you think it's realistic, maybe you think it's not realistic, but you need to discuss the different sides. So again, the structure is the same, right? The introduction, we paraphrase the question. Here we can give our opinion. Okay, I think it's realistic because of this. I think it's not realistic because of that. Or you could say, it is realistic, however, so we can use the phrase however to indicate that there are two sides to the story. So this would still be our opinion. Our opinion is one thing, however, there's another opinion as well. So this is how we might express our opinion for a discussion essay. Now, what do you think should go in the body paragraphs? So remember, this is important, that there are different sides. So what do you think should go in body 1? So I've given you a clue. We've said that there are different sides, meaning you may think one thing, but other people think something else. So how do we need to divide our body paragraphs up? So what goes into body 1? So the two different sides here are, yes, it's realistic. And the other side is, and these are the two things that you need to discuss. What's realistic about it and what's not realistic about it. So what needs to go into the body paragraphs is, first of all, you could do these any way round. So first of all is the side that you don't agree with, and then the side that you do agree with. Okay, you can swap these around and do them either way. It doesn't matter. If you want to discuss the side that you do agree with first, that's fine as well. So first we're discussing perhaps why it's not realistic, and then we're discussing why it is realistic. You have given your opinion, but you still need to discuss both sides, okay? So the first one would be the side that you don't agree with, and this means that it is other people's view. So this is the view believed by other people. And then you also need to give an example and reasons. In the second one, you explain the view that you agree with. Okay, so this is more likely to be your opinion. And again, you have to give an example. All right, so please remember, for a discussion essay, you're talking about both sides. So one side is in the first paragraph, the second side is in the other one. Okay, so this is, yes, it's realistic. This is, no, it's not realistic, and why. All right, then the conclusion is the same. Summarize the key points of the one side, the key points of the second side, and then you can give your opinion. Okay, I think it's realistic, I think it's not realistic, and then a quick summary of the reason. Right, so please remember, for a question like this, you need to discuss both sides. Let's have a look at the last type of essay. This is a problem solution essay. So I'd like you to quickly have a look at this question and type in the chat box, what is the problem that they mention here? What's the problem? The problem is traffic jams in cities. Okay. Now we need to say what the solution to this is. What is the solution to traffic jams in cities? And specifically, they ask you to discuss the measures that governments can take to discourage people from using their cars. Okay, so this is how we're going to discuss the solution. So here's the solution, and here is the problem. Right, you also have a question that asks for your opinion. So you're also asked to discuss how true you think this is. All right, so the introduction is the same. We paraphrase the question and we state what we'll be writing about. You can also give your opinion here because it says how true do you think this is. So you can say that no, this is not really true, or yes, that it is true. So it's possible for this one to add your opinion. All right, then what do you think needs to go into body one? What's the first thing we should start to talk about? If you're not sure, have a look at what kind of essay this is. Right, can anyone else tell me what we put in the first paragraph? We talk about the problem, right? It's a problem solution essay. They've given us a problem. So the first thing we need to talk about is what the problem is. And obviously this is traffic jams. So we state the problem, increasing traffic jams in cities. We explain why this is a problem. Okay, so why are traffic jams a problem? Then we can discuss the impact of this problem. Okay, so the impact is that people maybe get to work late, there's too many cars on the road, people can't drive fast enough, there may be more accidents. And then we can give an example of maybe different cities that this is a problem in. You also have the opportunity here to disagree. So you can say that you think this isn't really true. Many cities don't have problems like major traffic jams. So you can say whether you think this is a real problem or not over here as well. What do you think we put into body two? In body two, we put the solution, right? So the solution to the traffic jams. But here you need to answer this question as well. Okay, so the solution that they want you to discuss is the measures that governments can take. So you state what measures they can take, you explain why it's a solution, you give the results of the solution, and you give an example as well. Okay, perhaps you can think of some cities that this governments have taken measures like that. So I've seen that candidates often, with a question like this, they just answer this question. So they briefly say that it's true in the introduction, and then they spend both paragraphs answering this question. Okay, you're going to lose marks if you don't discuss the problem properly. They're asking you if you think this is true. That means you need to discuss traffic jams, why they're a problem, what cities, what examples you can think of. And then the second one, you discuss the solution. So if you forget to discuss the problem in detail, you're going to lose marks for that. Okay. And then the conclusion, we do a similar thing. We summarize the main points. Okay. And with a question like this, we can use a conditional sentence. So here's a conditional. We use the word if for a conditional. If we do not solve this issue, meaning traffic jams, within the next 10 years, the problem will spiral out of control. Right, so conditional here, we've used if with the present tense and the future tense. Okay, so this is the first conditional. Okay, you can use the second conditional as well. All right, so this is quite a nice way to end off your problem solution essay, is with a conditional. So if they don't fix the problem, then what will happen? So we could say, we could use the second conditional as well in order to discuss what will happen if the problem is not fixed. Okay, if you don't know what conditionals are, then please go and look it up. It's a good sentence structure to use, right? And it'll improve your score for grammatical range and accuracy if you can add at least one conditional. All right, we're gonna have to take a break now. I know this is a lot of information. I'm gonna post it in the flipped class section so you can download it. Look at it, try and use this when you're doing your plans and doing practice tests. Okay, it's really important not to leave important information out. All right, so let's have a look at this task again. So the first thing we can decide is what type of essay this is. So quickly have a look at this task again. I want you to read it and then tell me in the chat box, what type of essay is this? So let's see if you can remember the 4 types of essays that we just talked about. Tell me, what type of essay do we need to write for this question? Okay, can anyone else remember? Right, if you're not sure, you just have to look at the question. And so this is an opinion essay, right? Or an agree, disagree essay. Okay, so if you're not sure, you should just look at the question. Over here, we have 2 statements. So sometimes you only have one, but in this case, we have 2 statements. So the first one, the first opinion is that the internet allows us to stay connected no matter where we are. And the second opinion is that it isolates us and encourages people not to socialize. So we need to say whether we agree or disagree with these statements. Okay. Then we have to give reasons, include relevant examples. So let's have a look at this again. So this doesn't change, it's always the same. So this means that we must include our own opinion, okay? Because it says, to what extent do you agree or disagree? This is asking for your opinion, so you must include it. You must also give reasons for your opinion, okay? If you say you agree, then why? So you should also include some examples. These can either be from your personal experience, but they can also be from your own knowledge. All right, you don't have to include examples. If you can't think of any, that's okay. But if you have some examples, you should include them. Remember that they must be relevant, which means connected to the topic. Okay. But what's most important here is that you include your opinion and then you give reasons for it. Before you start writing, you need to make a plan. So this is really important, and if this is something that you don't do, I would encourage you to start doing it. This will help you to organize your essay clearly, and it also help you to write faster once you start writing, because you already have an idea of what you're going to write about. So you should spend at least 4 to 5 minutes planning your essay before you start. Okay, this is not a waste of time. It's really important. It helps you to organize it, and as I said, to get your ideas ready before you start writing. Right, so we're gonna do a plan. I'm gonna spend 4 minutes planning this essay. The first thing you can do is structure your essay, right? So we know we need an introduction. We know we need our body 1 or body A, body 2, and our conclusion. So you should be writing some notes for each of these paragraphs. You don't have to write full sentences, you're just writing a couple notes. Okay, so this is your plan. You can do these headings in order to write something for each one. For this type of essay, okay, we have to include our opinion. So that should be the first thing we add to our introduction. We paraphrase, okay, but we don't need to make notes for our paraphrase. But we do need to think about what is our opinion in the notes. So you can make a note of your opinion. But when you have two statements like this, you need to choose which one you agree with. So you need to choose your own point of view. Here you can think about, do you strongly agree, somewhat agree? Are you neutral? Do you somewhat disagree? And so on. If you just have one statement, you can just say whether you agree or disagree with it. But if you have two contrasting statements, so this statement is the opposite to this statement, you need to choose which one you agree with. Okay, so if there's two, choose the statement or the view you agree with. Okay, so if you agree with the first one, say that this is what you agree with. If you agree with the second one, say what you agree with. Right, do you remember what we need to put in body 1 and body 2 for this opinion essay? Can you tell me in the chat box, what should I include in body 1? So in the introduction, I state my opinion, I choose the view that I agree with. What should I put in body 2? Okay, opinion, reason, example. So remember, we need to state our reason. For example, if I said I agree with statement 1, I need to explain why I agree with statement 1. Okay, so state your reason, you can explain it a little bit more, and you can give an example. The second one, I need to state my reason again. So if I disagree with statement 2, I need to state this reason. You explain why, and again, you give a quick example. Okay. So in the first one, I would explain why I agree or disagree with number 1. In the second one, I would explain why I agree or disagree with the second statement. Okay, if there's just one statement, you can just give 2 reasons why you agree or 2 reasons why you disagree. All right, your conclusion is just a summary of these 2 ideas. So you can just write a quick note of how you're going to summarize the ideas. But what's most important here is that you choose what your opinion is and that you write down some notes for your reasons. Okay, so this would be what your reason for your opinion for statement 1 is, and what your reason for your opinion for statement 2 is. All right, so I'm going to give you 4 minutes, and I'd like you to write a quick plan. Do it on a piece of paper. Use these headings to help you, and just make down some notes for your ideas. Choose which one you agree with, say why you agree with the one, why you disagree with the other one. And you don't have to worry about conclusion too much over here. We should focus on these 2 points. Okay, so I'm going to time you. I'm going to give you 3 or 4 minutes to write down some notes. Remember, you're writing down notes about this topic, this question. Okay, just write down words and phrases, not full sentences. So I'm going to start now. You have 3 or 4 minutes to make a plan as if you were going to write this essay. All right, that's 4 minutes, so let's stop. If you didn't finish your plan, then that's something that you need to practice. Okay, you shouldn't spend more than 4, maybe 5 minutes planning your essay. You're just quickly noting down what your ideas are. If you have a look at the question, it also says to what extent. All right, so you could decide whether you strongly agree. You could say, I strongly agree with the first statement, and I somewhat disagree with the second statement. So that could be your opinion as well. Right, so let's have a look at the first one. So I want you to type in the chat box, either number 1 or number 2. Which view do you agree with? So please type 1 or 2 in the chat box. Which one do you agree with, or which one do you agree with more? All right, so it looks like most people say number 1, okay? Somebody says number 2, that's fine. Anything is fine. You could decide that you're neutral about number 2 as well, okay? So if you agree with both, it means that you're neutral. So you neither think that one is better, you don't think that one is better than the other, okay? Or if you somewhat agree. So we can use these phrases to express our opinion. If you agree with both, then you can state your reason why you agree with number 1 and state your reason why you agree with number 2, okay? There's no correct or incorrect answer. You just need to explain, give reasons for your answer. All right, now I want you to give me some examples. So can anyone give me an example of how the internet has allowed them to connect with other people? So type in the chat box any examples that you can think of that would allow the internet the internet would allow you to stay connected to other people no matter where they are. So you should have added some examples into your plan. Somebody said social media. Okay, good. Online study, workshopping, virtual classroom, great. So these are all really good examples. Remember, we can add examples like our personal experience. So can anyone quickly type in the chat box any personal experiences that they've had? Where internet allowed them to stay connected with other people. Okay, so please quickly type in the chat box a personal experience. So saying social media is quite general. If you have a personal experience, then add it in. Okay, communicate with friends living abroad, great. Associating with relatives abroad. Maybe if you ever had like a pen pal, you made a friend that lived in another country, you've never met them, but you can still connect with them. Somebody said during COVID, they had to work from home. They couldn't go to the office, but they used video calls for meetings. Stay connected with family when you work overseas. Okay, great. So these are things that you can add into your essay. Don't be afraid to add personal experience. Okay, this is explaining your reasoning. Okay, this is why I think this way because I've had this experience. So you can add general examples like different kinds of social media, but add a personal experience as well. Okay, so now we look at the second statement so we can discuss our reason for this. Yeah, you can use I in your example, that's fine. It's a personal experience, so you can use I. That's perfect. So let's look at the second one. A lot of you may disagree or somewhat disagree with the second statement. Can you give me a personal experience that you could use to explain your reason for number 2? So it says that it isolates us and encourages people not to socialize. So type in the chat box any example or personal experience that you've had that would either make you agree or disagree with this statement. So let's say you agreed with both, or you only somewhat disagreed. Give me some examples that you could use for the second statement. Okay, it can be addictive, good. Again, these are quite general. I want you to think of a personal experience, something that's happened to you or maybe a friend or a family member. Okay, some people can get glued to the screen while fighting with neighbors, great. Think about when you go to restaurants, you could say sometimes you can see that couples or families are sitting in a restaurant and they're not speaking to each other, they're all on their phone. Okay, this is something you've seen, so it's a personal experience. Your son keeps playing games in his room. Okay, that's a great personal experience. So add these into your essay. Okay, they're there to support your reason. Okay, you've said this, but why? And your personal experience is explaining why you think this way. Okay, so please don't forget to add those in. They're really important. Okay, yeah, I think my little brother also plays games a lot in his room, so I could use that as well. Okay, so planning is important. It helps you to structure your ideas. Don't forget to write about personal experience. And if you have two statements like this, decide what your opinion is on both. Okay, you need to talk about both, not just one of them. All right, so something that's really important is making sure that your ideas are relevant, which means they're connected to the topic. So this has to do with your task response. So this is the first criteria. So to get a good score for this, you should explain your opinion on the topic like we just did. Support your opinion with personal examples or your knowledge of the world. And only include relevant ideas. So that means ideas that are connected to the topic. If you start talking about things that are not connected to the topic, you're going to lose marks for this. So let's have a look at these 9 statements, and we're going to decide which ones are not connected to the topic. So that's what we just looked at about the internet, whether it isolates us or whether it helps us to connect. So there's 4 ideas that are not relevant. Let's look at number 1 together. I want you to just type relevant or not relevant in the chat box. So instant communication, like emails, text messages, means that it's difficult to escape from work. So is this relevant or not relevant to the question that we just looked at? Please type your answer in the chat box. So what do you think? Relevant or not relevant? I would say that this is relevant, okay? This is saying that it isolates us. So it is relevant. It's saying that instant communication isolates us. It makes it difficult to escape from work because we're constantly getting emails, we're constantly getting messages from work, which means we can't socialize with the people that we're with at the time. Right, so have a look at the rest of them by yourself. I'll give you 3 minutes. You need to decide which of these 4 are not relevant. Okay, so just write down the number of the statement that is not relevant. And remember that there are 4 of them. Okay, I'll give you 2 or 3 minutes and then we'll check together. All right, let's check the answers. So I'd like you to just type in the chat box the 4 numbers of the statements that you think are not relevant. So please type all 4 numbers in the chat box. So which ones do you think are not relevant? All right, let's have a look at them. So most of you have said 2. That's correct because it's got nothing to do with doing homework. And a lot of you said 3. Okay, that's also correct because we're not talking about computers here, so don't get confused. We're talking about the internet and staying connected. A few of you said 5, but let's have a look at 5. It says virtual friends. So this means friends that we make online. Cannot be compared to our actual friends or family. This is relevant. This one is relevant. Okay. So it's saying that friends online are not as good as friends in real life. So it's saying that the internet is not helping us to stay connected because it's taking away from our connection from our actual friends and family. All right, then we have number 6. Okay, definitely not connected, and number 8. All right, so we're talking specifically about social medias and staying connected online. All right, another way to organize your paragraphs is to think about your ideas for and your ideas against. So if you're for something, it means you agree with it. If you're against something, it means you disagree. So if you agree that the internet helps you stay connected, you're for it. And your ideas against this would be that the internet isolates us. So for example, you could put your ideas for in body 1 and your ideas against in body 2. Right, so I'd like you to decide how we would organize these. So we have number 1, number 4, number 7, and number 9. So out of these ideas that are relevant, which paragraph would we put them in, for or against? Okay, so I want you to have a look at them and decide which ones would we add to the for. Which ones are for? So please type the number in the chat box. 1, 4, 5, 7, and 9. Which ones are for? Meaning that they support the idea that the internet helps us stay connected. All right, quite a lot of you are saying number 1. Let's have a look at number 1. It says instant communication, which means things like emails, text messages, Facebook Messenger, means that it is difficult to escape from work. Does this support the idea that the internet helps us to stay connected? Remember, this is a positive thing. It means helps us to stay connected with other people. Is this positive? No. So the ideas for are number 7 and number 9. Okay. Traveling helps you stay connected with family. You can share memories with people far away. What about the ideas against? So against is number 1, because this means that instead of communicating with the people that we're with in our home or our friends, we have to keep answering emails from work. Okay, then the other ones against are number 4 and number 5. Okay. We should try keep the ideas equal. So if you have 3 ideas against, you should try have 3 ideas for as well. So can you think of any other ideas we could add to 4? Could you type an idea in the chat box? Something that would support the idea that the internet helps us to stay connected. For example, think about work. They mention work here, but in a negative way. So how could we speak about work in a positive way, explaining that it helps us to stay connected? Great, you can work from everywhere. Maybe you could think about COVID now, what's been happening? How do you communicate? How do you have meetings during COVID? So if you can't go into work, yep, you can do assignments with classmates online collaborative work. All of these things are good. Think about doing virtual meetings. This is a positive way that you would stay connected. All right, so try and keep your ideas balanced, okay? Have the same ideas for as against. This shows that you have a balanced argument. Okay, so those are our body paragraphs. Now we're going to have a look at our introduction. So remember, we want to paraphrase the question to start with. So what we're going to do is match some introduction statements to some task questions. Okay, so let's open this up and we're going to match them. So introduction statements, the first thing we do is paraphrase the question. Okay, so number 1 to 6 are the questions or the statements in the question. So this is what we need to paraphrase in order to write our introduction statement. So we're going to match the introductions to the questions to the introductions. So I'm going to give you 3 minutes to do this by yourself. So remember that these are a paraphrase of these. Okay, we only have 4, and here we have 6. So obviously 2 of these are extra. So think about A, which question does it paraphrase? Match the number to the letter. Okay, let's do number 1 together. So quickly read A, and then scan the questions and tell me which question matches with A. When you're ready, type your answer in the chat box. Okay, I want you to do it this way around. So tell me which question, which number matches with A. So read this and then quickly scan these. Okay, great. Number 5 is correct. So number 5 matches with A. I'd like you to do the rest of them by yourself. I'll give you 2 or 3 minutes and then we'll check the answers together. Yeah, only one letter matches with the numbers. Sorry, only one number matches with each letter. So for B, there's only one question that matches. Right, if you're done, type done in the chat box and we'll check the answers. All right, let's check the answers. So which one matches with B? Great, number 3, and C. Cool, number 1, and the last one, D, number 2. Okay. So you can see the paraphrasing here is a little bit more complex than what we would use for task 1. Okay. You don't have to just change some of the words in the sentence. You can change the whole sentence. Okay. As long as you're mentioning the topic, you can mention your opinion in the introduction as well, in the paraphrase. Okay. Supporting one side over the other. Right, let's look at other things that we can do with the introduction. So once we've paraphrased the question, that's not the whole introduction. So for task 2, you can add more to your introduction. So some more things you can do is to give your interpretation of the words or ideas. Okay, so you can explain one of the words or ideas in the introduction. You can explain what you intend to write about. Okay, so you can say what you're going to discuss in the essay. You can give a brief reaction to the question. This is your opinion. Or you could summarize the question or topic with a new question. You don't have to do all of these, okay? You restate the question and then you could do 1 or 2 of these. If you do all 4, it's going to be a very long introduction, okay? So what we're going to do is match these to these. So what of these suggestions, 1 to 4, do the sentences A to D relate to? So A says, does the internet really help us to develop relationships? So which one of these, number 1 to 4, does A match? Please just type the number in the chat box. So is this giving an interpretation? Is it explaining what we want to write? Is it giving our opinion? Or is it giving a new question to summarize the topic? So please type number 1 to 4 in the chat box. What is A? Does the internet really help us to develop relationships? What I underlined should give you a clue if you're not sure. What is this? This is a new question. So often we can end our introduction with a new question. So we're summarizing the topic. Does the internet really help us to develop relationships? Okay, so either you would answer yes or no to this. Have a look at B and please type the number that matches in the chat box. We need to consider both the benefits and the drawbacks of the internet. So what am I doing by saying this? Am I giving an interpretation of one word? Am I explaining what I want to write about? Am I giving my opinion? Or am I asking a new question? So this is not an opinion. I'm not saying whether I agree or disagree. I'm just telling you that I'm going to be writing about the benefits and the drawbacks. So we don't have to say, I'm going to discuss. We can use this way, meaning what I'm going to talk about is the benefits and the drawbacks. Right, what about numbers? What about C? So remember they said the internet is a tool that can help us to stay connected. The word interpretation means what I think something means. So this matches with number 1. So sometimes there's a word or a phrase in the question, like tool. So they said the internet is an important tool. So I can take the word tool and I can explain what I think this means. So I think that the word tool shows that the contact is impersonal, which means I'm supporting the idea that it isolates us. Okay, so we can take one word or phrase from the question and explain what we think that word or phrase means. Right, the last one, D, what does this match with? Okay, there's only one left, number 3. I don't know where everyone's gone. I'm not getting many answers anymore. So your feelings here can be mixed. All right, this is a great way to show that you're not on one side or the other. Okay, so if you can't make up your mind, if you don't have a strong opinion for one view or another view, you can say that your feelings are mixed. Okay, I have mixed feelings towards the internet, so we need to consider the benefits and drawbacks. Right, so these are ways that we can add on to our introduction. Remember that you don't need to do all 4 of them. Just choose 1 or 2 that you're comfortable with and use these after you've restated the question. Okay, so let's look at these 4 sentences. Decide which one of these would be a good final sentence for our introduction. So please read all of them and then just type the number of the one that you think would be the best final sentence for our introduction. So we're still talking about the same topic, the internet either isolating us or helping us to stay connected. We restate the question. Which of these would be a good final sentence? Okay, we have mixed opinions here. Let's start with number 4. All right. Is our question asking us about computers? Just let me know, yes or no. Is the question asking us about computers? No, they're asking us about the internet helping us socialize. So it cannot be number 4. Then let's look at number 1 and number 3. Number 1, does this look at one or both sides of the argument? Just let me know, one or both. This only looks at one side of the argument. What about number 3? Does this look at one or both sides? Also, only one side. So when it gives us two statements like that, we want to express that there are two sides to the story. So the best one for this essay is number 2, because it looks at both sides. Is the internet, which is our topic, positive or negative? So try end it off. This gives you a question, but it also tells the reader what you're going to be writing about, that you're going to be discussing both sides, which is what we need to do. We first state our reason for being for something, and then we state our reasons for being against something. So please try and add both sides into your introduction as well. You can give your opinion, but you're still going to be discussing both sides of the story. All right, so this is our introduction. We're going to move on to worksheet 7 and have a look at expressing our opinion, which is something that we need to do. Express our ideas, give our point of view, and we're going to have a look at the conclusion. All right, so one of the criteria is coherence and cohesion. Remember how your ideas are organized and how you link your information together. So cohesion means linking your ideas clearly. All right, so we do that by using linking words or cohesive devices. So let's have a look at a couple of them. Okay, if there's some of these that you don't know, please write them down. They're really important. So we're going to go through these. We use linking words for different reasons. We can use them to connect similar ideas, different ideas, to clarify, which means to make clear. So to make an idea clear, to give examples, or to give reasons or a conclusion. So we're going to match the words to the correct category. So which other words could we add to number 1 for connecting similar ideas? We mention an idea and then we want to talk about another idea that's similar. So scan the words in the box and then type in all the linking words that we would use for similar ideas. Okay, great. In addition, also is correct. Furthermore is correct. Can you think of any more? There's one more. Great. Not only, but also. So not only this, but also that. Okay, we've got to go through them a little bit quickly because we don't have that much time left. Great. What about for different ideas? This is contrasting ideas. So anything that has a similar meaning to but, and there's quite a lot of them. However, while, in spite of, okay. On the other hand, Despite, which has the same meaning as in spite of, although, whereas. So whereas and while have a similar meaning. I think that's it. Okay, great. That's all of them. Thanks. So again, if you don't know them, please write them down. Whereas and while have a similar meaning if you don't know the word whereas. Okay, what can we use to clarify an idea? So something that has a similar meaning to in other words. Great. In fact is one. And that is. And often we say that is to say. So we can use this phrase as well. That is to say, and then we clarify our point. Okay, the next one, giving examples. For instance, okay, so if you're giving more than one example, try use different phrases and such as, right? And the last one for reaching a conclusion. So the most common word is therefore. What else could we use? As a result, consequently. If you don't know the word consequently, please write it down. One more, two more. So. So is similar to because. We can use it in a similar way. So because of is one as well. Okay. So one of your criteria is also lexical resource, which is vocabulary. So you want to try use a range of different vocabulary. So you can use a range of different linking devices as well. Right, if you don't know what consequently means, it's the same as a result. Let's do a few of these. So you need to decide which linking word is correct. So please read sentence 1 and then type the correct word in the chat box. Think about what are we trying to do here? Are we looking at similar ideas, different ideas, examples, conclusions, clarification? So please type either consequently or despite in the chat box. Right, consequently is correct. Let's do number 2. So although is for a different idea, in fact is to clarify the idea. So nowadays, the internet has become an indispensable business tool. That means we can't do without it. We would find it very difficult to get through a working day without it. So the word indispensable means that we can't do without it. So this idea, it's difficult to get through a working day without it. This is not a different idea. It's the same idea. So what they're doing is clarifying this idea of indispensable. Okay, meaning that it would be difficult to do without it. Let's just do the last one, number 3. Again, is it a similar idea using also, or is it a different idea using however? The internet brings the world into our home. We sometimes want to shut out the outside world from time to time. So are these similar ideas or different ideas? Okay, I only have 4 answers. What about the rest of you? The first one is bringing the world into your home. The second one is shutting the world out of your home. So these are different ideas. Okay. Number 4. So again, whereas is for a different idea, furthermore is for a similar idea. Okay, great. This is furthermore. So these ideas are similar. Okay. So we can use a variety of words to help improve our lexical resource, but we also want to try avoid repetition. So we don't want to use the same word again and again, but we want to use a variety of words. We also want to show a variety of sentence structure. Okay, we don't want to use the same word order, the same tense for every sentence, but we want to show variety. So some ways that we can do this is either by using a synonym, or we can use a pronoun to refer back to an idea. Like first I say the name Sally, in the second sentence I use the word she. So I've used the pronoun instead of saying Sally again. We can also do this by using this or these. So we can say this and the noun, or these with a plural noun. Let's have a look at this sentence to understand a bit more. So the settlers introduced several new animals, such as the cat. So here we have the noun. This is the idea that we're talking about, the cat. Now in the second sentence, instead of saying the cat preyed on local wildlife, we can use a pronoun, this, and then we can use a synonym of the word cat, in this case, predator, something that preys on other things. All right, so this is a way that we can not repeat the word the cat again to avoid repetition. If we have a group noun, we can use this or these types or kind of with the noun. Okay, let's have a look at this sentence to understand. So settlers often introduce new crops and animals. So this is a group noun, new crops and animals. So here we don't want to say new crops and animals can be disastrous. Instead we use this type of, and then we use a noun, activity. This is a synonym. All right, so using pronouns and synonyms together is a way of avoiding repeating ourselves again and again. So we want to not say the same words that we've already said. Let's try do it ourselves in these sentences. So you can use this to help you. So what we're going to do is choose a suitable synonym. So here we have a box with synonyms. And then we're going to decide what pronouns we can use, either this or these with the synonym, or this or these kind or type of. So look at the words that are underlined. First decide what synonym you need, and then decide what pronoun we can add. Okay, so have a look at number 1. And I want you to type the synonym and the pronoun that we can use in the chat box. So the pronouns that we're looking for are this or these with the noun. So So a lot of you are just giving me the synonym. I want you to give me the synonym and the pronoun that we need. Either this, these, or adding kind of or type of. Okay, so the best way to do it would be these and then the synonym natural resources. If you want to say these types of natural resources, that would be okay as well. All right, let's look at number 2. Can you do the same thing for me? Pronoun and the synonym. All right, just choose one from the box. Okay, great. We could use these, or if you want to say these kinds of. That would be fine as well. And then the synonym is facilities. If you don't know this word, please write it down. Right, let's go to number 3. Number 3 is a little bit different. We're not going to use a pronoun here. We're going to find the synonym, and then I want you to think about, does this verb need to change? So we don't need a synonym for this one. So what's the, sorry, we don't need a pronoun for this one. So what's the synonym? I want you to look at this verb. Think about, is this verb correct or does it need to change? Okay, so a lot of you have said funding, which is fine. But do we say funding are? No, we say funding is. Okay. All right, so we can also use synonyms by using it as well. So it would be fine to say it over here. For example, it. What do we need to change if I use the word it instead of this predator? We need to change the verb. Okay, so it prays. Right, so either we can use pronouns like it, or we can use this or these and then choose a synonym for the noun as well. Okay, so please remember this. If it's something that you don't do, then you need to work on how can we avoid saying the same thing again and again. We can do that by using pronouns and synonyms. Okay, using correct style is also important. So remember that an essay is a formal task, which means you need to use a formal style. So your language and your writing needs to be formal. So we write in full sentences, paragraphs with formal language. So here we have 6 sentences and all of them have some incorrect style, meaning informal language. So let's go through a few of them. Let's look at number 1. Find the word that is informal, that's incorrect, and I want you to write the correction in the chat box. So which word here should we change? Just write the correction only in the chat box. Just write the correction. Don't write the incorrect word. Write down how would you change it. So this is a word that's okay to use when you're speaking, but we never write it. If you're not sure, here it is. Write down the correction. So we would use the full word going to. Okay. look at number 3. Find the informal word and write down the correction in the chat box. All right, some of you have almost got it. We don't use EG. What would we use instead of this? We can't just say example, that's not enough. We need to say for example. What other linking words what other linking phrases could we use that have the same meaning? Yeah, for instance, such as. So we can use any of these, but we don't use EG in a formal essay. Right, let's look at one more, number 6. Number 6. So this is with etc. Yeah, some people have got it, well done. We don't use this word etc. in formal essays. Think about what does etc. mean. In English, it means and so on. Okay, so if you don't know this, please write it down. Meaning and similar things like this. Okay, if we were to carry on with the list and so on. Right, so if you don't know this EG and etc., please remember that we don't use these. They're informal. We use words like for example and so on instead. Okay, especially this one. Try to remember that if you didn't know it already. Okay, so we need to use a formal style. We also need to usually give our personal view. Okay, so task 2, at some point, we should give our opinion. So we should give our view or our attitude on the topic. We can do this in a few different ways. So have a look here at A to D. So we can give our opinion by using adverbs like personally or probably. Okay, personally, I feel that the statement is true. We can use modals like might or could. Okay. We can also use phrases like in my view. Or we can use verbs like appear to be or seem to be. So these 2 options, we use these when we're saying that things are a possibility. So we're not saying that they're a fact, they're saying that they're a possibility. So it's just my opinion, it's not a fact. So if you have a look at this sentence over here, traveling is dangerous. This is a fact, okay? I'm stating this as a fact. But what we want to do is give our opinion. So we can change it from the present simple is to using a modal. Traveling can be dangerous. Traveling might be dangerous. Traveling could be dangerous. Or if we have a look at this one, most people agree with me. We're saying this as if it were a fact. Okay, it's not a fact, it's just our opinion. So we can use a phrase like I think, and we can use a modal. I think most people would agree with me. Right, so let's think of other modals we could use. We could use would. What other modals could we use when we want to express our opinion? Might, could, would. Can you think of any more modal verbs? Something else that starts with an M. May, all right. Can, like we have over here. So you can use any of these modals. Can you think of any other phrases? So we have I think. Over here, what other phrases could we use? In my opinion, right? We wouldn't use to me. This is not a formal phrase. In my view, in my opinion, I think, I believe. Okay. So these are all phrases that we can use, or we could use these semi-modals appear to be or seem to be. Let's have a look at these sentences here, and we're going to practice using these. So here we have some phrases, some sentences. We're going to try and first have a look at the words that they already use to show opinion, like perhaps. Okay, and then we're going to change the sentence using the word in brackets. So here we took away the word perhaps and we changed it to this might be. Okay, perhaps this is because today's teachers are not trained. This might be because today's teachers are not trained. So both of these are opinion. Let's have a look at number 2. Which word in number 2 expresses opinion? Or which words in number 2 express opinion? Right, the word personally. Okay, we also have the word I don't think. This is also opinion. Right, so let's change this, and I want you to change the sentence using the word view. So take this out and rewrite the sentence using the word view. I want you to write the whole sentence. Okay, great. So we could say, in my view. Either in my view, this is a good idea, or you're changing the meaning if you take away I don't think. Okay, so be careful not to change the meaning. If you want to take away I don't think, you would have to say, in my view, this is a bad idea. Or not a good idea. So don't change the meaning. All right, let's look at number 3. So first, which word in the sentence expresses opinion? All right, the word certainty. Certainly, sorry. So let's take this out and rewrite it with this word. All right, quite a lot of you are saying I personally. That's fine. But often with this word, we like to use it in the beginning of the sentence. This isn't the only correct way, but this is a good way of using it. So if I start with personally, how do I complete the sentence? Yeah, we carry on with I wouldn't like. And the rest stays the same. So just remember, often with words like personally, we use them in the beginning. Let's do one more, number 4. So first of all, what's the word that expresses opinion? in number 4. Right, I think, and what else? And could. Right, so I think and the modal. So let's take these out, and now I want you to write the sentence with this word. This is a little bit harder. Just think about it. How could I use the word probably? Anyone else? Okay, so the word probably needs to come after the verb. So we would write something like this is probably. If you don't know how to use this word, please write this down. A bad idea. And if we wanted to, we could add a phrase in the beginning, like in my opinion, or I think. Right, somebody said it would probably be a bad idea, so that's correct as well. So instead of saying this, we could say, I think it would. Okay, as long as our verb comes before the word probably. All right, so these are different ways that we can express our opinion. All right, let's move on to some other phrases. So we can also use things like I think or I know, or verbs like realize, feel, believe, imagine, can see, I can see. So let's have a look at what they mean. They have slightly different meanings. We use some of these when we have a strong belief, a strong opinion. We use some of them when we have an understanding of the situation. So this is not like I strongly agree or I strongly disagree. This is what I understand from the situation. So for example, I understand that some people are worried about COVID and prefer to stay at home. And not saying that I think it's a good idea or a bad idea, it's just what I understand from the situation. Or some of these mean that we're making a guess and we're not really sure. So in the chat box, I just want you to type A, B, or C. So for this phrase, I feel, please read the sentence. Now, what does this mean? Is it A, a strong belief, B, an understanding, or C, a guess? Right, so read the sentence, type A, B, or C in the chat box. Okay, you need to read the whole sentence to understand what the phrase means. Right, quite a couple of you are saying B. When we say B, it means that we're not agreeing or disagreeing. But here, do I agree that people should play an active role? Or am I not saying whether I agree or disagree? So I feel it's important for everyone to play an active role in reducing this type of pollution. I agree with this statement. Okay, I'm saying that I agree or I think that it's important that people should play an active role. So this is a strong belief. I'm actually saying what I agree or disagree with. Let's have a look at number 2. Right, if there's any of these words you don't know, please write them down with the meaning. This will also improve your lexical resource, the range of your vocabulary. Right, so this is B in understanding, I realize. Number 3. Great, B as well. This is an understanding. Number 4, I suppose. Take some time to read the sentence if you're not sure. I suppose that allowing adverts to be placed on a football pitch might help to reduce the cost of tickets. Right, this is a guess. I'm not really sure if it will. Number 5. Right, what I believe is my belief, so A. Number 6. I imagine that people with high-powered jobs find it difficult to escape from work. Okay, this is C, it's a guess. Unless I actually have a high-powered job, I'm just making a guess. Number 7. I am convinced that there is a connection between use and obesity. Right, some of you are getting a little bit confused with this. I am convinced is a very strong belief. So this is definitely A. So if you don't know what this word means, this phrase, please write it down. This is to express a very strong belief. I am convinced. It means there's no doubt in my mind that there is a connection between computer use and obesity. Meaning I absolutely agree that there is a connection between computer use and obesity. The more people spend sitting down in front of their computer, the more they may gain weight. Okay, so this is a very strong opinion. The last one, number 8. All right, great, this is C. So again, I suspect. Right, so it is okay to make a guess. You don't have to have a strong opinion. You can use phrases like I suppose, I imagine, I suspect if we want to express that we're not sure, but we're making a guess about something. Okay, and then we can explain our understanding or our strong belief. So please use a variety of words in order to express your opinion. And when you're expressing your opinion, it's fine to use I. Okay, it's your opinion, so you can use I. All right, last thing we're going to have a look at before we finish is the conclusion paragraph. So you need to write a conclusion. It's the last paragraph. Your conclusion should be a brief summary of your arguments and ideas. And it's often a good place to give your opinion. All right, so here we have 5 conclusion sentences. All of them contain a mistake. So we're going to find it and correct the mistake. We're going to go through them together. So first, number 1, please just type the correction in the chat box. So find the mistake and correct it in number 1. In conclusion, I completely disagree this view. All right, this is correct. We don't need to change this. We don't say in my conclusion, just in conclusion. What's missing is the preposition. We agree or we disagree with something. All right, number 2. As far as I'm concerned, this problem is without any real solution. Okay, we need ed here, as far as I'm concerned. So this is another phrase for opinion. You can write it down. Number 3. There's nothing wrong with this to summarize, so that's not the mistake. It's with our linking word here. So we don't say even there is, we say even though, and it's 2 words. Number 4. In conclude, there are both negatives and positives to this. Where's the mistake? Some of you have got it. Okay, again, we never say in my conclusion. So please don't add the word my in front of the word conclusion. We can say in conclusion, but let's change it because we already have that in number 1. So we can use the phrase to conclude. So either in conclusion or to conclude. Right, and the last one, number 5, this is a common mistake. So please write it down if this is a mistake that you make, it's important. The mistake is here, and this is a common mistake that lots of people make. This is not correct. What should it be? Right, one person's got it. We use in my view. We never say in my point of view. So that if this is a mistake that you make, please correct it now. In English, we don't say in my point of view. We say in my view. Not from my point of view. It's also not formal. It's not what we would use. If you want to use point of view, you would say my point of view is. And then you would explain. So this is the only way that we can use point of view. We don't say from my point of view. And we don't say in my point of view. So this is a mistake that you make. Please correct it now. Okay. Both of these are incorrect. We say, in my view, education is a vital part of every child's life. So please remember that. You'll lose marks if you use these phrases. Right, I know we've gone over time, but I quickly want to give you some tips for conclusions. So the first tip is that you should use a phrase like in conclusion, to conclude, to summarize, to sum up, as far as I'm concerned, in my view. In my view is more for an opinion, okay? So we start with one of these phrases. The next thing we do is include a brief summary of the main idea in each body paragraph. So in each body paragraph is important. So you say to conclude, then you sum up the ideas of paragraph body 1 and body 2. Don't add new ideas that you didn't mention in the body paragraphs, okay? The conclusion is not the area to be adding new ideas. You should be adding your ideas into the body paragraph, and then you just summarize them at the end. This is also a good place to add your opinion. So here you can say, in my view. And then you can also add a solution if it's relevant. Okay, so if they give you some kind of problem, you can add a solution. So this solution might be a new idea. Okay, if it's a solution, then it's fine. But don't start talking about new main ideas in the conclusion. You should just be summarizing points that you've already made. Okay, so if you want, you can take a screenshot of this. These are important tips for your conclusion and the things that you should be adding. Okay, we're going to have to end there. We've run out of time. Does anybody have any questions? Please type them in the chat box.